So tell me if you've heard this recently. Millennials are priced out of the housing market. Is that something that you've heard recently? It's something I keep hearing. And I also hear that if millennials would, or rather, if boomers would give up their homes, give up their rental properties, that millennials could finally be able to afford homes and they would get their share of the housing market. Well, I have some stats tonight that I thought were worth sharing that may completely bust that myth that millennials are not buying real estate. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Jason Ferrier. I've been a realtor and investor outside of Columbus, Ohio for the last 7 years. I am the housing nerd, and thanks for joining me this evening on this live. So before we get to the millennial part, let's look at the total size of the U.S. housing market. And this information is it's from Redfin, and it's for the year 2024 versus 2023. So the total size of the U.S. housing market, $49.7 trillion in value. And this is residential, by the way. Residential, not commercial, just residential. That's up $2.5 trillion, or 5.2% year over year in growth. By the way, that's the slowest annual growth since 2019. Makes sense, because over the last 5 years, since 2020, basically, we've seen parabolic growth, right, in the U.S. housing market as far as values go. They're up on average about 10% for the last 5 years, a total of about 50%, give or take a few percentage points depending on where you live. Some areas are up a lot more, some are not up as much. But overall, that's what we're looking at. Millennials own over 20% of that market. Over 20%. Stunned me. Comment below. Let me know, did it stun you to hear that? 20%. That's up 18% year over year from 2024 compared to 2023. They represent $9.7 trillion of the U.S. housing market. $9.7 trillion. So how about those evil baby boomers? Where do they fall in? How are they doing? Well, they're up in their market share, up 5.2% to $20 trillion. So millennials are growing their market share far faster than boomers are. What about Gen X? That's my generation. Up 4.6%. Not very good. Year over year to 14 trillion. So millennials are quickly catching Gen X in the total value of their residential real estate. Silent generation. Now, a lot of these folks are passing away, retiring, or have retired, right? Downsizing, that type of stuff. They were down 3.7% in their home values, total values, if you add all the houses up, to $4.6 trillion. So they own the least amount. But I thought it was interesting that millennials own by far, when you look at the growth, they are outpacing boomers. They're outpacing Gen X. They're obviously outpacing the silent generation. And I think it just goes to show that when you're looking at stuff like in your face, right? If you're out there looking for a home, you're a millennial, maybe you know a millennial, maybe you have you have a child who is a millennial and they can't find a home. I hear a lot of that on my channel. And so it's definitely tough out there. But when you think about it, millennials do have a large percentage of the real estate market, of residential real estate. So this misnomer that I can't find a home because I'm a millennial, or, millennials are just priced out of the market. Well, there's some millennial out there buying, trillions of dollars of residential real estate. So anyway, I thought that was telling, and it kind of gives me some perspective as far as it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to millennials and the housing market. I also thought it was interesting that Gen X is not doing well with that. You know, I'm embarrassed for my generation, I guess, to not be able to to keep up. So the other thing I thought about was that boomers being only up 5.2%, and they're at 20 trillion. You've got millennials about half that now, and they're quickly gaining that share. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I'd love to know what you think about the whole millennial boomer thing and these stats I laid out. And by the way, did you know institutional investors, those investors that own over 1,000 homes, make up roughly 1% of the housing market? Just 1%. So again, the misnomer that millennials can't compete, buyers can't compete because of institutional buying. Notice you don't hear that a lot anymore. Not as much as you used to. Probably because they're not buying as much, either side. But they're not, institutional investors are not dominating the housing market like a lot of people think. They're just not. Now, that market share may grow in the future, but right now, around 1%. Super Tech Boy, what's up? Millennials are as old as 42 now. Yeah, they are. Like, you're right. I'm getting old. I'm not a millennial, but yeah, it's crazy to think that. You're right. So a lot of those folks are obviously own homes. They do. And I have a lot of clients that are millennials, and I've helped a lot of sellers that are millennials. So they certainly do. They are certainly older than a lot of people think. A lot of people think millennials, at least I do, and I think younger people, but shoot, they're getting old too. But thanks for that comment, Super Tech Boy. I appreciate it. So yeah, anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Institutional investors, 1%, millennials, 20% plus of the market. So if you are a millennial, or if you're even not a millennial and you're Gen Z or you're a boomer or Gen X and you're looking for a house, I've got some things here that I wrote down as far as how to maybe differentiate yourself, do stuff different than what you see, or what you see people get frustrated at with the home buying process. One of them would be you have to absolutely think differently. And I got this came up because I actually talked to a couple younger home buyers today, and it got me thinking because they were sharing their frustration about the housing market with me at an open house. And the stuff we talked about was how they're looking for homes. And they're actually, they're using the MLS, obviously. They're using a realtor. That's fine. They're looking on Zillow. Everybody does that. But I would encourage you, if you're really looking for a property and you're serious, go out there and think differently. So what does that mean, Jason? Well, I would do stuff others won't do. And so right now I see a lot of people looking still for that needle in a haystack, right? The move-in ready, beautiful home on the beautiful block in the beautiful neighborhood, and the house is dialed in. A lot of people don't want to do the work of rehabbing and renovation. So don't let that be you. Get out there, find something that needs work. Find a house that needs, windows and a roof and foundation work, and it needs all new bathrooms, and it needs maybe a new kitchen, and maybe it's livable right now, but it's not the ideal house for you, meaning it hopefully is in the right location. It's in the right neighborhood, excuse me, but it may not be all blinged out. I encourage you to ignore all the cosmetics of a home, all the cosmetics, everything, the paint, the flooring, the carpet, right? The appliances, for goodness sakes, don't buy a house because of stainless steel appliances. Forget all that stuff and find something that needs work. Find something that nobody wants or fewer people want. There's opportunities out there right now to do that. There are sellers, owners of properties that want to sell it to you, and other people are not going to compete as hard because it's not beautiful. Maybe it's in the right area, but it's not in great shape. So I would encourage you to look at homes that need a lot of work. Don't be scared of them. Don't be. There are loan products out there. There are lenders, and there are FHA programs, for instance, that can help you buy a house and roll in the roll in the repairs to the actual purchase, a renovation loan. And by the way, the other way to do it is to look for a duplex or a triplex or a quad. Buy the building. You can use an FHA loan if you live in the building, live in a unit, renovate the other ones, and do something most buyers are completely unwilling to do. The other great way to find a property is to drive the streets of the areas you want to buy in, write down the house numbers and the addresses of the properties that look like they need help, and you can tell, right? Maybe they have Christmas decorations up and it's July. Maybe they have, Halloween decorations up and it's spring still. Maybe there's a lot of weeds growing in the yard in the summer. Maybe in the winter, you don't see any snow tracks. So the house is maybe empty. Look for those homes off market. Write down the addresses, the addresses, take a picture of the house from the outside. If you're on the public street, you can totally take a picture just like Google does, right? And then go back to your house or the place you live, go to your office, whatever, write down the owner addresses by looking them up on the county auditor site. Then send them a letter that says, hey, I noticed your house on this block. I'd like to talk to you about buying it. And send those letters out every month. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy, but it's simple. And then you'll be shocked how many people actually call you back and tell you or ask you, hey, what's going on here? Why did you send me a letter? Some people may tell you to leave them alone. They probably will, but you'll get one in that batch if you keep sending it enough that will tell you, hey, let's talk about this. Like, what are you thinking? Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that don't want to put their house on the market for whatever reason. They don't want to deal with a realtor. They don't want to pay commissions, which is fine. Find those people that are willing to have that conversation with you, and you'll be able to find a deal that no one else can find because you did something they're not willing to do. If your idea of looking for a home is using Zillow or realtor.com on the weekend while you're, on the couch and you're, using your phone and you're looking through the listings, everybody else is doing that too. So don't be like everybody else. Do something completely different. I also put down here, look at auctions, foreclosures, tax auctions. There's a lot I'm seeing more and more foreclosures from taxes, not necessarily mortgages, because those are in forbearance a lot of times. So we're not seeing a lot of foreclosures with mortgages, but we are seeing them with taxes because those don't have moratoriums. Those don't have forbearance. You don't pay your property taxes, you're out of here. So, and the interest rate and penalties on property taxes are like loan shark level penalties. Like they're egregious penalties. So a lot of people, if they're behind on their property taxes, they don't know what to do. And they may be embarrassed to even list their house. And they just want somebody to buy it maybe, Think about that. They're out there. Just because you don't know anybody who's doing that perhaps, or you think that that's kind of a strange way to go out and find a house, doesn't mean it doesn't happen every day. You're just not doing it. So I would just encourage you to look where others don't, do things that others aren't willing to do. And that will, in my experience with real estate anyway, usually yield a lot better results than following what everybody else is doing. So anyway, FHA is dead end for any home needing work. Stay clear, trust me. Well, that, by the way, C. Colbert, thanks for that comment. That's true if you're looking for a standard FHA property. But if you use an FHA 203K loan, you can certainly find a house that needs work. And FHA has a program where you can use a loan to actually fix the house. And it can be in a variety of ways, right? It could be anything from windows, roof, upgrades to the kitchen, the bathroom, cosmetics. You can't put a pool in with FHA money, I don't think. You probably can't put like a hot tub in. Can't build an indoor sauna or an indoor bowling alley, but you can actually add value to the house and fix it. And so, yeah, FHA is rough if you're looking at properties that need work, but they have loan products where very few people use that product. In fact, very few lenders even like to talk about that. I mean, I think it's like one of those, things that mortgage professionals, they do this. They're like, stay away when you bring up a 203K loan, because they're a lot of work. And, but that's a great way to do something different than other people. So anyway, but I understand how you're saying that, Colburn, because it's, if you find a house that needs work, standard FHA loans usually don't fly. And that's what makes them so difficult. But the trick is to find somebody who wants to sell their property, who needs to sell their property rather, something maybe that's been on the market a while. The other thing I wrote down was expireds. Go after expired listings. In other words, if you're dealing with a realtor, ask them to give you a list of all the properties that were expired over the last year, everything that didn't sell. And then start looking at those and go, oh man, maybe 10 of these look pretty good. Like, I wonder why they didn't sell. Then ask your realtor to call them. Say, call these 10 properties and find out what's going on with them. If your realtor's good at all, they would do that for you. And produce maybe a couple opportunities that are hidden, right? Somebody who maybe was overpriced or, wasn't able to come to an agreement on a deal. And so now it's expired and they're kind of waiting till the spring to list it. Don't let them wait. Jump on it now. So anyway, just some ideas on how to differentiate yourself and buy real estate where others are kind of running away. But the moral of the story is tonight is millennials are actually doing pretty well with real estate in as far as the housing market goes. I was shocked. 20% of the market share, 18% growth year over year, $9.7 trillion in market value. So, I mean, there's whole YouTube channels dedicated, it seems like, to belly aching, complaining, and whining that millennials can't find, that like they're priced out of the market. It seems like that. It's probably just an assumption on my end, but that's what I get from the channel. It's like, hey, there are other opportunities out there, and there are people buying. There are millennials buying real estate, obviously. Somebody's buying all that trillions of dollars. So anyway, I'm not saying you should run out and buy a home, by the way. This is not buying advice. So you should not definitely run out and buy a home unless it makes sense for you. If it's the right time to buy a home and you're looking, then dig in. But if you don't want to buy a home and you want to rent, that's okay too. Nothing wrong with renting. Some of the easiest years of my life were renting. So, all right. Well, look, I appreciate your time tonight. Hopefully this was valuable at all. If it was, like the video, consider subscribing to The Housing Nerd. I do lives every once in a while. I do put out videos about the housing market, about the Ohio market, a lot of stuff about the Ohio market. And I appreciate your time. Have a great night, and we'll see you on the next video. I'm out.